Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss any update from Tech Primers. Welcome to Tech Primers. In this video, we are going to see how we can create a unit test for a REST controller. So right now you would have seen lots of videos I would have made on creating the REST controllers, but we never wrote any tests for the REST controller, right? In this particular video, we are going to see how to create tests for the REST controller. So let's quickly go and create our small basic project from the start.spring.io, our usual website, right, from Spring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group called test. I'm going to say test controller example. So I'll upload the project into GitHub. You can take it from there. So I'm going to use the Spring MVC. So I'm going to use the Spring MVC web. So by default, the test classes are generated. So let's quickly generate this project. The test dependencies are by default added by Spring. So we can reuse that dependency. So we don't have to have specific dependencies to be mentioned in this particular section. So we just mention Spring MVC here, the web project basically. So the project got downloaded. Let me unzip it and quickly open it via IntelliJ. Yeah, if you see here in the dependencies in the POM, there is only one more dependency along with the Spring Web, which is nothing but the Spring Boot starter test. By default, Spring adds the Spring Boot starter test, which internally has all the Spring test dependencies. So if you notice here, there are lots of dependencies inserted. You can see the JUnit, you can see the JSON path from the JWay, you have the Mockito, you have the ham crust, you have lots of other dependencies. Okay, you see the Spring test from the Spring framework. So all these are there by default in the Spring Boot application, so you don't have to worry about adding any explicit dependencies. So we are ready with our dependencies for our project. So let's go and quickly create one small hello world resource, right? So that we can test that particular resource. So I'm just creating a hello world resource using the REST controller. So request mapping, I'm going to say that it's going to be under hello, right? And I'm going to create a basic get mapping, and I'm going to return some string saying hello world, right? So basically this is not going to return anything extraordinary. So this is just going to return me a string which is going to say hello world, right? So that's it. So basically what we have done here is we have created a REST controller with just the hello / hello and nothing else. So if you hit the / hello, this particular get mapping method is going to be returned. Okay, so let's go and quickly create the tests for this particular class, right? So you can do a alt enter and then it pops up an option for us to do a create test, and I'm going to create a test and I'm going to use JUnit 4. So I just say JUnit 4 here, and I'm going to run this with the Spring JUnit runner. So there is an annotation called run with from the JUnit library. You can have lots of runners. You have Mockito runner. If you see, you have Mockito JUnit runner, but since this is a Spring project, we are going to use the Spring JUnit 4 runner. So you just need to mention the Spring JUnit 4 class runner.class in the run with annotation. And now what do we need to do? So we have the hello resource, right? So we will just have the hello resource. So we need to create an instance of this. So we are going to use the inject mocks. So we are just going to mock this particular resource. So inject mocks annotation will help us in mocking this particular hello resource, and if we have any other objects to be injected into the hello resource, that will be injected as a mock. So that is why inject mocks is used. And also we are now going to create the setup. So I'm just going to do a setup here, and I'll just have some method for test, right? So I'll just say test hello world. Right, so now this particular object got created. Now we are going to use the MockMvc. So we are going to use MockMvc to test this particular REST controller. So MockMvc, if you notice, it is provided by the Spring framework, so with which we can test all the servlet related calls. So you can have REST endpoints, and then using MockMvc you can call them directly. You don't have to create a in-memory version of anything as such. So if you are using Jersey client or something, people used to do, what they used to do is they create a in-memory Jersey client, and then they use the normal REST client or the REST template, and then hit that particular REST endpoint. It becomes like an integration test, but this is like a unit test. So Spring has created a MockMvc with which we can easily test it. So I'm going to show that. So we need to create the instance of MockMvc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say MockMvc, and then I need to create a instance of this, right? So there is something called MockMvc builders. So using the MockMvc builders, I'm going to say create a standalone setup of this particular REST endpoint. So what's the REST endpoint? Which is nothing but our hello world resource, right? Hello resource. Basically, I have just made it as hello resource. So we need to give this particular hello resource as a standalone setup, and we need to build this. So I'll just say build. So this is going to create a mock MVC for us. So the mock MVC object is created. So we have created the mock of the hello resource as well. Now we need to just test it, right? So how do we test it? So inside the test, let's go and see how to do it. So using the mock MVC object, you can do a perform. So perform is the only method which is there in the mock MVC. You say perform, and if you notice, it is expecting a request builder. So the request builder which we are going to use here is the mock request builder here. So this is the request builder which we are going to use, and you need to say get, right? So we had a get method, correct? So what is the resource method? Yeah, it's a get. So you can say get. If you have a post, you can do a post, okay? And the method name is hello, right? So slash hello. So that is what we need to hit. So if you hit the slash hello, this is going to hit the REST endpoint which we created there using the get mapping, okay? And we need to now compare this value, right? So you can say and expect. So expect is like going to assert your value. So now I'm going to use another builder. So I'm going to say mock MVC builders. So I'm going to use the mock MVC. Sorry, you need to now use the matcher. So when you created the builder, so you need now the matcher. So I'm going to use the mock MVC result matcher, which is going to have different method. So I'm going to check what is the status of this particular REST endpoint, whether it is going to be okay or not okay. So I'm going to say whether this particular REST endpoint returned okay. If there was a REST endpoint, it is going to return okay, which is nothing but the status 200. So for that particular HTTP result. So I'm going to use another matcher, and I'm going to say what is the content. So I'm going to say the content should be a string. So in my case it's a string, right? So I'm going to compare it with, let's say, hello world, right? So I'm making sure this test case is going to fail because I have given h as caps. So let's run this particular test case. Yeah, if you notice here, the test case has failed, and if you see, the assertion says the response content is hello world, but actually it came as lowercase hello. So what we are going to do is we are just going to change this, and you can remove all the unnecessary one. So if you want to make the test case more concise and clear, you can even do a on-demand static. So here also I can just remove these. I can just make it like this so that it is more clear for us to see the test. So I can move this inside here. So this way you can have the test very neat. So if you read this particular test case, I can understand that I'm doing a get of hello, the status should be okay, and the content should be hello world, and that is what I expect. So I have just rerun the test case again. So it should now return me the response successfully. So notice here the test has passed now. So this is how you can write a test for a controller. So in this case it was a simple string, right? So what if there was a JSON message, right? I want to compare some JSON. So I'm going to create one more REST endpoint, which I'm going to call it as JSON. Okay, and I'm going to return some JSON of type hello, let's say, right? And I'm going to create this as a inner class. I'll just create some basic objects, right? So I'm going to say hello, I'm just going to say title, and I'll create one more value. Okay, I'll just create some constructors and getters and setters. Okay, so we've created a constructor and the getters and setters. That's it. So here what I'm going to do, from the JSON I'm just going to return some new new object, right? So new hello object. So hello object is going to be this, it's going to have the title and the value. So I'm going to say title should be hello world, or title should be greetings. Okay, and I'm going to say value as hello world, right? And this is going to return. Now this is going to be a JSON message, so I'm going to say produces here media type as JSON. Okay, so this is going to give a JSON response which is going to have title and value, and we are going to write a test case for this particular method. So I'm going to quickly write that same way. So I'm going to say public void test hello world JSON, right? Now I'm going to use the same MockMvc. I'm going to say perform as the same way. It's going to be a get, so I'm going to say get, and in this particular case it's going to be JSON. So that is the path, right? And also I'm going to say accept the content which should be only of the type JSON. So I'm going to say media type dot JSON. So accept only this particular type content. So let me do throws exception, right? Okay. So now we accepted responses only of the type JSON. Now we need to assert them, right? So and I'm going to say and expect status should be again is okay. I need the status to be fine. It should return the message, and now in the content I need to compare the JSON, right? So previously we used the content, instead now we need to use the JSON path. So if you notice here, by default IntelliJ is suggesting me that the JSON path is coming from the MockMvc result matches, similar to how we got the content and status. So I'm going to use the same thing, and here I need to represent the JSON message as a dollar. So if I say dollar, I can access the JSON message. So in our case the JSON message was having the title and value, right? So we can access directly like this. So we can access something like dollar dot title, and I'm going to say title should be equal to greetings, right? That's what I did, right? Yeah, greetings. So I'm going to say this title should be now matching, right? And I'm going to also compare the value. So I'm going to say dollar dot value, and I can just say matches dot is of again hello world, right? I'm going to just end this, and then let's run this particular test case. So this should again return a successful response because I've just asserted the title and the hello world. So this is exactly the JSON message which we received. So you are directly comparing the JSON message with the response which we got. So yeah, if you notice here, this is successful. We have received the successful message from the REST endpoint here, which returned a hello. So what if you want to check the size, right? So what if you did not know the JSON length? So in that case you can do, if you had a list, you don't have to mention anything. You just say this, and then you just say hash size. So you can just check the size. So you can just say this. However, in our case it is not a list, right? We are not returning a list of list JSON. So I'm just going to say dot star. So if you do this, this is going to return me. So let's say for simplicity, I'm just going to make it 1 and make this particular test case fail, so that we know it is correctly asserting. So right now we have the size as 2 because title and value is there. So the size should be 2. This should fail now. Yeah, if you notice here, the test case has failed. If you see, the collection is saying the expected collection size is 1, but it is 2. So as we expected, it is 2 only, but we made it to fail just to see how we can compare the size of the JSON message. Okay, so this is how you can test and write the test cases for the REST controller. So hope you found it interesting, and I don't know if how many of you were familiar with this MockMvc methodology, where you can use MockMvc to write the test for the controller. So I'll just summarize what we did. So the test case, with this test case, we started off with the run with annotation. We gave the Spring JUnit 4 class runner. You can use a Mockito runner, but in our case we are using Spring, so we are using a Spring JUnit 4 runner. And the next step is to create the MockMvc object. So as a part of the setup, we are creating a builder for the MockMvc using the hello resource which we injected as a mock. So using this particular mock, it will create a MockMvc builder. So it is like creating an in-memory Spring MVC builder. So it automatically creates a server kind of setup. And using that MockMvc, we are doing a perform using the REST endpoint. You are using a REST endpoint using get. So we are using get. If you are using post, you can use post or anything else here. And then once it is done, we expect the status of it to be okay. If you expect it to be failing, so you can do that as well. If you want to write a sad path, these are all happy path scenarios which I have written test cases for. You can write a sad path and then you can make it fail and see whether it is working or not. Okay, so we are checking the status here, and the next one would be the content. You can directly do a content again. So there are matches which we can use. So if you see here, these are MockMvc result matches which I am using that we can directly assert the values using functional style or the builder patterns. So next, if you want to check the JSON message, you can use the JSON path and then access the JSON value like this here. So if you have a list, you can use directly dollar dot that whatever title. If title had a list of values, you can say title of 0, title of 1, and stuff like that. So this is how you can write tests for a REST controller. This is like a proper test for a REST controller, which I had been writing it for quite a while now. So hope you found this interesting, and you try it out at your workplace or maybe at your home. Okay, meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.